India, you have the floor.
This has been an unfortunate incident, and it is in continuation of several such unfortunate incidents that we have seen of in not following inclusivity, not respecting the positions of countries. We had informed the presidency, we had informed the secretariat that we wanted to make a statement prior to any decision on the adoption. However, and this is for everyone to see, this has been stage managed, and we are extremely, extremely disappointed with this incident. Your Excellency, trust is the basis for all action, and this incident is indicative of a lack of trust, a lack of collaboration on an issue which is a global challenge which is faced by all of us, and most of all by the developing countries that are not responsible for it. But we've seen what you have done. However, would want to say that gaveling and trying to ignore parties from speaking does not behove the UNFCCC system, and we would want you to hear us and also hear our objections to this adoption. We absolutely object to this unfair means followed for adoption. We are faced with one of the biggest challenges of all times, which will determine our existence. The only thing that enables us to move beyond and undertake action in line with addressing this challenge is collaboration and trust among us. It's a fact that both have not worked today, and we are extremely hurt by this action of the presidency and the secretariat. The one thing, the trust that there will be action by those who can take action. Developed countries have the wherewithals to take action. They should agree to advance their net zero objectives, the goals, and become net negative soon thereafter. But there is also trust that financial resources, technology and capacity building, the means of implementation, the essence of any climate action is required, and that is required by the developing countries. This will enable those who want to take the action and who want to survive in this changing climate world, but are not able to do it because they need the support of the developed countries, and we seek trust in that. And I'm sorry that we need to make concerted efforts to do this, because clearly what's happened today is not any indication of this. Trust that we understand each other. We understand each other's constraints. Trust that we will move together, whatever it may be, for a better future. Unfortunately, the paper on the NCQG that has been proposed does not speak or reflect or inspire confidence and trust that we will come out of this grave problem of climate change. Excellency, we have worked together, not for 1, not for 2, but 3 years on this, to have a mandate before us, and to implement the mandate provided by the COP21 decision, para 53, to set the new collective quantified goal. The goal was envisioned and decided to be set in the context of the needs and the priorities of developing countries, and based on the principles of equity and common but differentiated responsibility. Both are fundamental to the UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement. This is the essence of our collaboration. This is the only basis for coming to a UN body where all of our countries can together discuss and arrive at solutions to address climate challenges that we all face. The developing countries are most impacted by climate change. In addition to our development priorities, we have to contend with the additional stresses and crises of climate. The global south is being pushed to transit to low-carbon pathways, even at the cost of our growth. We have to face the CBAM measures. There are other measures that are being imposed by developed country parties to make the transition really not easy. In fact, it's quite difficult to enable such a transition in a very, very competitive, hostile environment that we are facing at the moment. The COP21 decision on NCQG was in the light of inequitable impacts of climate change on developing countries, the increasing threat of these impacts, and the need to finance the evolving needs and priorities. We are disappointed with the outcome, which clearly brings out the unwillingness of the developed country parties to fulfill their responsibilities. As we struggle to deal with climate change, the outcome proposed in the paper will further affect our ability to adapt to climate change, greatly impact our NDC ambitions and its implementation, and create further challenges to our resilience, and above all, will severely impact growth. India does not accept the goal proposal in its present form. Developed countries taking lead for a mobilization goal of a mere sum of $300 billion, and that too to be reached only by 2035. That's almost 11 years later. And that too from a wide variety of sources. So it would have to be private, it would have to be multilateral. And there are large amounts of it which will be left for the developing countries to mobilize themselves. The goal is too little, too distant. It is 2035, it's too far gone. Our 2030 estimates tell us that we need to do it at 1.3 trillion per year till 2030. But we have only been agreeable to have, or we have a proposal that talks about $300 billion mobilization goal. It does not address the needs and priorities of developing countries. It is incompatible with the principle of CBDRC and equity. Regardless of our battle with impacts of climate change, it is a fact that developing countries are accused continuously of emissions, forgetting the high per capita emissions of the developed countries, forgetting also the historical responsibilities of the developed countries. This only adds to the problem at hand for us, and the proposed goal shall not solve anything for us. In fact, we have to implement ambitious NDCs and economic challenges that we need to navigate and address the adaptation needs. The amount that is proposed to be mobilized is abysmally poor. It's a paltry sum. It is not something that will enable conducive climate action that is necessary for the survival of our country and for the growth of our people, their livelihoods. And I'm sorry to say that we cannot accept it. Excellency, the current text's paragraphs 8A, 8C, and 9 are highly problematic for us. This little commitment has been further qualified by a footnote. We know that recapitalization of MDBs is a matter that has remained unaddressed. And in that situation, we know also that in times to come, if we participate, developing countries will be and are going to be the major contributors for financing climate action through this 8C. Counting finance mobilization through MDBs into the overall goal is not a progression from 100 billion goal, but is a deflection of the responsibility of the developed countries towards developing country shareholders of the MDBs. Excellency, I regret to say that this document is nothing more than an optical illusion. This, in our opinion, will not address the enormity of the challenge we all face. Therefore, we oppose the adoption of this document. We oppose the adoption of this document. India opposes the adoption of this document, and please take note and regard of what we have just said from the floor of this room. We seek...
Thank you for your statement.
We seek a much higher ambition. We seek a much higher ambition from the developed countries, and which does not seek support. The ambition that exists at present of 300 billion is actually seeking support of the developing countries, and that is such an unacceptable fact. It is not right that you should expect that from a developing country, and the developed countries are happy to say that we should be contributing to that effort. I'm sorry, we are not happy. We are very unhappy, disappointed with the process, and object to the adoption of this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. I take note of your statement. Statement will be reflected in the report.